Hi, I'm Rabbi Dan Ellsberg, Beth Jacobs Synagogue here in Hamilton, Ontario. This is Mitzvah 2 for Yom Kippur, Yizkor, 5773, 2012. Those of you who know me know I'm not exactly Mr. Facebook. I have an account, but I really only use it as a way to let others get in touch with me. I rarely check or post updates. But I'll confess amazement at the power of Facebook. Facebook rolled out in stock with great fanfare this spring, and on the first day, shares were offered, valued itself at worth about $104 million. By August, though, shares had traded at $38 on the day of the IPO, dropped under $20, and Facebook went looking for some image repair. So they started something of an ongoing online magazine called Facebook Stories that would highlight some of the ways this social network of 950 million people could be used. Well, again, I'm not much of a Facebook guy. The first story they rolled out stopped me cold. They posted a video. You can get it at facebookstories.com or on YouTube, Facebook Stories, about a young man named Mark Zuckerberg. Mike lives in New Delhi. He's age 27. He came down with meningitis and hydroencephalitis. Such a condition would be extremely unlikely in a country like Canada. It remains a risk in India. I don't claim to know the medical details or to understand them. The disease resulted in a buildup of fluids near his brain, causing brain damage. Upon recovery and release from the hospital, he had lost large chunks of his memory, including his ability to remember or recognize people. Mike, in the video, tells of his loss. He was unable to recognize his own mother, his father, his brothers, his sisters. He was unable to recognize his own reflection in the mirror. His memory had been erased. Having lost a lifetime of memories, he had to learn relationships from scratch. He had to learn who he was as his family nursed him back to health. One day, this video tells us, Mike sat down at his old computer and checked the browser's internet history and saw a site called Facebook. The Facebook video tells us. The computer signed him in, and there were the unrecognizable faces and names that were his online friends. There's a people you may know feature, which may be a way to find old high school buddies for some, but a phrase with an entirely different meaning for man. He wrote to these people, he described his condition, his loss of memory, he asked if he knew them. And so, one by one, Mike was told who he was. His friends wrote back and told him the story of his life, the experiences they had shared, places, the emotions, the good times and the bad, the reasons they loved him, and the kind of person they thought he was. And in a virtual world as well as in his family's home, Mike began to learn the memories that he had lost, the life that he had lost, and he began to rebuild it. Without his memories, he was unmoored. Given his connection to family, friends, and community, he was himself again. As he himself asks, we are our pasts, right? So who am I? The power of his story isn't just the technical help he got from Facebook. I don't have any stock or stake in the company, but as long as we're at it, I'll wish a good yontif to Mr. Zuckerberg, wherever you are. But the degree to which we are the product of our memories. Mark Zuckerberg found that without his memories, he was still identified as himself, but he was not identifiable to himself. Memories made the context of who he was. And when his own memory failed him, it was the links with his family and his friends that refilled his emptiness. He found himself because of the relationships he had. We find ourselves because of the relationships we have. My story of forgetting and being told what to remember is uncommon, but common to all of us is the way that what we remember literally makes us who we are. And if memory helps define who we are, we need to note how famously unreliable memory is. We all know this. Even without the tragic conditions that compromise memory, even without everyday slips and senior moments, memory plays tricks on us. This is not news. I know. You know. Even pop songs remind us of this, from Rep. Paul's "Still a Man Hears What He Wants to Hear and Disregards the Rest," to Rep. Barbara's "Memories May Be Beautiful and Yet What's painful to remember, we simply choose to forget. If we're shaped by memory, then selective memory should be hugely troubling for us. It's facing this fact that the Jewish tradition asks us to confront. Though pop culture may encourage living happily in the moment, Judaism asks us to face bad memories, even as we cherish the good, and has asked this for thousands of years. The historian Leo Strauss, in discussing ancient Greek philosophy, notes that of past sorrows, Epicurus, ancient Greek, takes no heed. He recalls his past only insofar as it is pleasurable. It is the decisive characteristics of the Epicurean that he is incapable of suffering from his past. Harold Bloom says of this that nothing could be more un-Jewish. And once used again, one of the great rabbis used Epicurean as a term of the greatest abuse. An Epicurean attitude towards memory is antithetical to Judaism. Of course, Jews have our own relationship with memory, our own relationship with history. And as a group and as individuals, our memory doesn't always match our history. But what the tradition asks us is something more. We are to strive to be honest. Honest with our memories, not merely choosing to remember the good, not merely choosing to remember the bad, but remember. As the Baal Shem Tov, the 18th century founder of the Hasidic movement, said, forgetfulness leads to exile. Memory is the source of redemption. Memory pervades Jewish thought, just as memory pervades the thoughts of Jews, and understandably so. Memory is not a passive act for us, it's an active one. For it's God's remembering of the covenant in the book of Exodus when Israel cries out that spurs action. Memory is not remembering something forgotten, but noting a fact that requires action. God's remembering the covenant is a prelude to the Exodus narrative. Presumably, God had not forgotten the Israelites. Rather, it's a matter of seeing a situation clearly and acting accordingly. That's our model for memory. We remember so much. How could we forget? And why do we need then a time to remember? It's for focus. Our memories not only make us who we are, but they make us who we can be. Our lessons for present and future action are taken from our past. Who we can become is in part determined by what we remember. It is just as true of us as it is of Maya and Charlotte. We are both enhanced by and burdened by memory. Our lives' wholeness is reflected by the wholeness of our memories. This is part of why one of the most painful experiences we can face is the loss of a loved one's memory, and the pain that flows from the disorientation of such loss. Contrary to the song, what is too painful to remember, we cannot forget. We cannot choose such a path of forgetfulness. We need not dwell on the pain of memory, nor dare we blithely discard it. The allure of memory is not pain, of course. It's the memory of love. The closeness we share with others is a defining feature of our lives, and we are right to seek solace in the memory of time spent with loved ones, with wisdom received from those who are no longer here. As quote again Rabbi David Wolfe writes, the inescapable paradox of love is this: it is made precious by time, which threatens to destroy it. Only through loss can we love, but it's loss that racks our hearts. And so it is no accident that for 1,000 years we say Yizkor on Yom Kippur. Because while Rosh Hashanah is Yom Adin, the day of judgment, Yom Kippur is a day of compassion. Yizkor is a tradition, as Cantor Ayala found us pointing out, that is unique to Ashkenazim. Its genesis is from mourning the losses during the Crusades. And so on a day when we seek to feel God's compassion and forgiveness for ourselves, when we extend compassion and forgiveness to each other, when we become acutely aware of the veil of separation between living and dead, we remember. I've heard of shuls moving Yizkor to the end of the service to encourage the kahal to say the musaf. Don't worry, I won't do it. Yizkor's traditional placement is here, on the heels of our reading, the Haftorah from the prophet Isaiah. Because memory is not a passive act, and Isaiah hammers away the point. Ritual without justice is a charade. Justice without Torah is forgetting. Seek the well-being of others, Isaiah says. That's how you remember me, says God. And that is the lead-in for our ceremony of Yizkor. It's as if our ancestors, who now themselves live in memory, bequeath to us yet another message of love from beyond. Do you know how to remember me? Do you know how to invoke my spirit? Not just in tears, not just in laughter, not just in recalling the time we spent together, but by helping others live fuller lives. That is an act of memory. Share joy with your loved ones. Don't fool yourself with hoarding possessions when you can share kindnesses. Don't weep over much, don't forget. As the Midrash says, Zachor b'peh, al tishkach b'lev. Remember with your mouth, don't forget with your heart. Remember not just the good memories, but remember fully, in the best way the tradition asks. Active, lasting, thoughtful memory. Not overwhelming. If we were to be overwhelmed constantly by memory, we'd have no place for special days to remember. We're not to live in the past, but in the present, looking forward while knowing from where we've come. Jews celebrate memory and elevate memory, but we are not to live in the past. Yom Kippur is not a commemoration of the past, but a celebration of the present and future. We can turn into better men and women when the kind of people we dreamed of becoming, and that our loved ones hoped for us. Today, we admit our shortcomings, urge each other to live more inspired lives, and remember the people who brought us here. How could today be anything other than a celebration of the past? If we're old or young, weary or anxious, if we're cynical or optimistic, we will use this day to make tomorrow better. We'll use yesterday to make tomorrow better. As the poet Joseph Brodsky said, if there is a substitute for love, it is memory. I still think of how that loss of memory almost raised Ryan Sharma's life story in Faraway New Delhi, and how his connections to others gave him his life back. It's a story about a popular website, but it's also a more universal story about us. Our stories are intimately wound with a web of family, of friends, of communities, and for us, our stories are wound in the web of a people whose undying commitment to serving God links us to generations who would otherwise be forgotten. They live in us. Their blood courses through our veins. Their prayers live in our actions. We don't just remember. We remember and we act. Our actions give life to the ideals of our ancestors and loved ones, and their memories give strength to us. May we prove worthy of those who we remember today. May their ideals live in us, and may we be worthy to inspire our descendants to ever greater heights. May you be sealed with blessings,